Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Deborah Kobylt Live. I appreciate you being here. Today, I want to talk a little bit about what's been going on with the hurricanes that has ravaged Texas, Florida, and our islands. Harvey and Irma alone, I think, are expected to wreak havoc of more than $200 billion. I was on a walk with my friend today, and I said, where is all of this money coming from? Clearly the federal government and beyond, but there's so much need and so much relief that is needed. Do we have any photos that we can sort of put up there about what's been going on? You know, for those of us who aren't there, who don't live there, we have no idea just how difficult it could be to have something like that coming in the night, barreling through your home. You're displaced. Probably one of the worst things I saw was in Texas with the elderly people waist high and beyond in their wheelchairs with water just filling up their nursing home. And then, of course, in Florida, I think 8 people died, 8 elderly, because there was no generator and it was so hot that they died from the heat. They could no longer breathe. And now, of course, there's Maria. Jose is currently, I believe, stalled off of the East Coast, and now Maria is wreaking havoc, I believe, in Puerto Rico today. It's done its damage. And I have a real good friend who's been visiting me from New York. She's a real interesting girl. Here's Marge Smith. How you doing?
Good, Deborah. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I'm glad you're on. You know, Marge and I go way back. We worked in journalism together.
Not that far back.
Not a couple of years, about 3 years.
3 years.
Back on the East Coast. And Margie is a real interesting person. Aside from being a terrific journalist and really great friend, she's actually crossed the Atlantic twice. Twice in a sailboat with one other guy piloting that boat, which to me is outstanding. We were at lunch the other day in Malibu, and as I was looking out over the Pacific, I'm thinking, how the hell did she do this with just one other person? So just your story was so interesting. But along your journeys, you also made your way down to the islands, and you spent a good deal of time in St. John. And you brought to light to me just all the people who have nothing, because we all know that down on the islands, they sustain themselves primarily from tourism. They've been torn apart, ripped apart, and now how are they going to sustain themselves? And they need a lot of help. So I just thought maybe you could bring to light some color of what it's like living there.
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about this since we've been talking about it, and you said, what's life like down there? Well,
yeah.
In a lot of ways, life is like here. I mean, you
Yeah.
think about the Caribbean, and you think, here's a place I'm going on vacation and enjoying the scenery, and you see these beautiful villas. But the people who live there, they're working the jobs, and their kids are in school, and they're running their houses. And if they go to the beach, it's on a Sunday, probably like you do here in Southern California.
But primarily, they're earning their money from tourism.
That's right.
And without us going to visit, there's nothing.
Right. So
they were not ready. They were not prepared for this at all, were they?
Well, you live down there. It's you've got earthquakes here, right? So you live there, and you know that there's a possibility. But there hadn't been a major hurricane hitting at least the U.S. Virgin Islands since Maryland in '95. So that's 22 years. Mm-hmm. So there hasn't been anything quite like this. So you kind of it's coming, and I think. For me, where I lived on St. John, which is the smallest of the U.S. Virgin Islands, and I think there's almost a little identity crisis, too. Sort of in the beginning, people didn't even know, like, where are these islands? And
where are they? And who owns them? Nobody, I didn't know. I have to know. I have to look it up and go, wait a minute, is this ours? It doesn't matter if it's ours or not, but at the moment we're talking about ours because we're talking about getting relief to our own islands.
Right.
But, okay, so go.
Right, so when Irma's barreling across the Atlantic, heading towards the islands, and the news is all covering what's going to be the effect in Florida, and Florida got hit too. But
yeah,
meanwhile,
they were slammed, but their mainland at least.
American citizens got hurt in Irma. I mean, that was a Category 5 storm that went across. It took days for people to even get information back to the mainland to say we're safe, let alone what do we need, and then how are we going to get it there?
What do they need, and how can we get it there? And then I really want to talk about for people who want to donate, I want to get that up there right away, because I know a lot of people think they have to give a lot. They don't. Every little $5, $10 really does make a difference. And the dollars get to work immediately. So how, once communication was finally reached, what's happening over there?
Well, I'm not there, so I can't exactly speak to that, but there's this amazing network of people who are former residents and who know people that are there that have kind of been trying to get the word out. on this side of things here in the States. So probably cash is still the best way to go. It's just donations, because they have to physically get things there. So you can't just drive in when the roads are open and bring in your trucks full of supplies, right? So,
yeah, and I always like to say people, they cruise to these islands, maybe not necessarily St. John, because I don't even think there's a port there for the larger
not,
boats,
right.
right? You were telling me. But for all the people who go to the different islands and enjoy and spend their money there, this is really a time to give back, because we need to make sure that those islands are there for people to come and enjoy in future years, because otherwise the people who live there, they can't live and sustain themselves. There's no other way to make a living. Isn't that correct?
that's probably right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's going to be a big topic further down the road. I mean, right now they're in survival mode. They're in the people are still evacuating. They were evacuating before this last hurricane hit. They got hit, and then they got hit again last night. So even if it wasn't with the same force, you're talking about mudslides and rain coming down in shelters that have no roofs, that kind of thing.
Absolutely right. It came back in, and where people were in a shelter with no roof, they were slammed. And Puerto Rico was hit so hard, and reports are still coming in about what's going on in Puerto Rico.
That's right. In Puerto Rico and St. Croix, it's also good to know they were the staging areas for the relief for St. Thomas and St. John from the first go-round. So you had these two places that were not hit that badly, and now they've been hit. So it's a terrible scene down there.
Yeah.
So and people need help. The best way to help right now is to make donations through one of the, and there are many organizations that do.
What are some of the ones that you're supporting in particular? Oops, my phone. Oh, it's my son. Oh, my goodness. I'm just going to have to call him back, so he's going to have to wait. See, this is live here. Sorry, everybody. And Justin, you're going to have to wait. But
Sorry, Justin.
I usually keep my phone off, so sorry about that. I told the kid to call me all day. I'm like, would you hurry up? So now he picks now. So, okay. Anyway, what are some of the ones that you really support?
The top one that I would mention is the St. John Community Foundation. They are operative year-round. They take care of the homeless on St. John and the senior citizens, the elderly on St. John. They do ride shares. Like, again, the same kinds of things you do
that we do here.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's the same for people who haven't visited. It's the same lifestyle. It's just that they are on an island. They are isolated. And now that, a lot of their revenue stream has been destroyed, they just need your right. They're in survival mode. So that's the stjohnfoundation.org/ is that what it is? Donate. Do we have that up there that we could put it up? Because I'm really encouraging people to just, open their hearts and just donate something. Any others that you're supporting?
And where I lived on St. John, it was a small town called Coral Bay. It's the smaller of the two. You can barely call it a town, but the smaller of the two little communities on St. John. And just to give you an example of how small it is, when the hurricane hit 2 weeks ago, I mean, it took 48 hours, I'd say, before there was any information at all from anybody, just even to say, we're still here.
Yeah.
So the Coral Bay Community Council is another wonderful organization that strictly works with the people of that community who are also going to need help.
To put a little face on this, hang on, Justin. To put a little face on this, when you cross the Atlantic, such a pioneer you are, Marge, and you landed in St. John. I feel like this is Christopher Columbus days, but you landed in St. John. What was it like for you? It was just pretty glorious, right? Life there, and it really appealed to you, didn't it?
Yeah, it was kind of the other way around, actually, which is I started out in St. John, and that's where I learned.
Oops.
That's all right. That's where I learned to sail. So it's a big sailing community. So which is kind of another interesting point to bring up. People see the piles of boats that might be pushed up on a beach somewhere. These are not millionaires with their yachts. These are people who have small boats, and those boats are their homes. So it's
and their livelihoods, and they go and fish, and they catch the fish for the local market,
and they take tourists out, and there's a whole between the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, it's probably the sailing capital of the world. So and the British Virgin Islands got hit hard as well.
They did. But that must have been, how long did you live over on St. John? You go back pretty much every year to visit, don't you?
Yeah, in fact, usually we're down this time of year, and for various reasons we're not this year. So about a year and a half, and then another year and a half of sailing. So it's a very tight-knit community. It's a pretty amazing little place, and I have a lot of friends there who could use a lot of help right now.
Yeah, so that's why I wanted to have you on just briefly to talk about, so important to give to the Red Cross, because I know they're helping down there as well.
Yes.
Red Cross is terrific. If you really have no idea what to do, if you just send some dollars there. I personally don't send blankets and whatnot, which I think is so kind of people, because I'm never sure how they, how to get them there. What are they going to do once they have the pile of blankets? But if you just give some money, they can really use it. The Red Cross, the St. John Foundation, there's so many good ones. The Coral Bay Community Council and the St. John Rescue.
And the St. John Rescue, they were instrumental. They're the first responders on the island.
Yeah.
So they're in survival mode.
Yeah. So everyone who's here and watching what's going on there, I've been sort of glued to the Weather Channel. My family's from Sarasota, Florida.
Yeah.
They did not get hit hard, but we weren't sure. And we're grateful to that. But my heart, I have a big spot in my heart for those who were. So I'm just trying to encourage everybody to get out there, give something, and just feel grateful that, we're here and we're okay. And it's sort of our obligation to help everybody else. So any other parting words that you can give?
Just thanks for having me on to talk about this. I think just to be able to say, just don't forget, because so many people are in need, as you said, between Texas
people are
and
amazing.
Florida.
Look what happened in Texas. People just,
people are
getting out. They're
they want to help.
Florida, and they want to help the islands too. They're just not sure how. So, good thing is to get the word out there. So, everybody, thanks for listening. I'm going to keep on this. It's important. We got to give. And I'll see everybody next week. Bye-bye.